Hey everyone, I am Christine Gritmon, and this is Let's Talk About Brand. I do the show every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, live on Facebook and on Twitter. I would love to hear from you what time it is, where you are watching from, if you're watching us live or on the replay, and of course, if you're watching us on Facebook or on Twitter. I'm very excited for today's show. Today's show is about something that many of us struggle with. I do my Tuesday Twitter chat about brand on Twitter. It's always on the same topic as my Friday show. This week's topic is building the business behind your brand. It's very exciting to build a personal brand. It's really fun, and as we get more followers and more influence, that can feel really nice. But what are you doing with it? How can you really use that to build your actual business instead of just building your brand? What is your brand helping you towards? And what are some tactics that we can use to help us do that more effectively? During our Tuesday Twitter chat about brand, a lot of people expressed, that they knew what it was about, they knew what they were going for, but it's hard to make that leap to really applying your personal brand to your business. So we have an expert on to talk about that today, Kalika Yap. She has done this many times. She has several businesses. The ones that I'm personally most interested in are Citrus Studios, Orange and Bergamot, and Nectarine. So she's going to tell us a little bit about each of those, but they're all basically about branding in different elements, different ways of doing that. And she also owns several consumer-based businesses as well. So she's going to talk a little bit about that, and then she's really going to get into how to really make sure that your brand is serving an actual business purpose. Without any further ado, let's bring her on. Hello, Kalika.
Hi, Christine. How are you? It's so great to see you.
I'm good. I'm so glad we got this together. So
Yes.
I know that you want to get into tactics, and I'm sure everyone wants to hear the how. But first, if you could give us just a little bit of a rundown on your own entrepreneurial journey, I think that would, and also how your personal brand also developed within that space. Kind of mouthful,
Sure.
but
Sure. I'm a serial concurrent entrepreneur. So what that means is I have 5 businesses that I'm running concurrently. The first business that I started was Citrus Studios, which is a branding agency focused on really big, brands like the Getty and, you know, Fortune 100 brands. Then I started a company called LuxLink. I invented the purse hook. My third business is I started a waxing salon, the first waxing salon in Honolulu. Then I jumped into Tangerine, which is a photo and video studio. Then I started Orange and Bergamot, which is a creative agency just for female founders. And then just most recently, my daughters also started a company, so I'm helping them with their brand, Conscious Kids Cookies. And so many exciting things happened last year where I put together my website, Kalika.com, to help sort of put all my brands underneath one place so that everyone can just go to one place.
to that end, actually, I'm curious because your branding related industries. I'm curious about the decision to kind of have Citrus Studios, Orange and Bergamot, and Tangerine all be separate entities versus divisions of the same entity, because I imagine there's a lot of overlap in who needs those services.
I think that the biggest key for brands is to learn how to focus. And when you focus on your target audience, you will get that target audience. So Citrus Studios works with big brands. So if we work with big brands like, I don't know, Hyundai Motors and, big Fortune 100 companies, people like you and me wouldn't be attracted to that brand. So that's why I started Orange and Bergamot. And as far as services go, there are a lot of times when people already have their brands in place and they want to do content creation. So Tangerine was birthed because just because you already have your brand doesn't mean you don't need all these other services. So that's why I did it. But yes, in the beginning it was very, very confusing for many people. But once you see the brands come to life, you can see if you put the brands next to each other, Citrus looks and feels so different from Orange and Bergamot. The people that we showcase, the clients that we showcase, the work that we showcase is completely different. mean, that's why, and for Citrus Studios, we are focused a lot on big government projects. I am a women owned, minority owned business. And so we attract companies like Metro, for instance. We attract companies like the LA County. And again, if someone like you and me was looking for someone to help with their personal brand or their creative, they wouldn't go to Citrus. They would go to some place like Orange and Bergamot.
That makes sense. You know your clientele. It sounds like that's sort of the basis of what you built some of these brands on, which is really key.
Yeah, and
And
one of and just let me just also share,
yeah,
like, my goal for Orange and Bergamot is to help 1,000,000 female founders make at least $1,000,000 in revenue and create 1,000,000 jobs. And so with that mission, that purpose-driven goal, uh, everything looks and feels different as well too.
now the crux of the show here, how can we do that? I mean, that's a very basic question, but the fact is you're into branding. You have branding agencies. So branding is clearly a part of this reaching $1 million for many of us. So I would love to hear from you kind of what draws people to enlist your help with that? What tend to be some of the pain points that they're struggling with that you really help them out with in terms of turning their brand to use for their business or building out their brand to help their business?
Well, I often share my journey because when people see me now, tens of millions of dollars later, they wouldn't imagine that I was working at a cafe on Abercrombie in Venice, California, getting paid $6 an hour and taking showers at public restroom, couch surfing, right? They wouldn't
Wow.
believe it. But so that's where I start. I start with where I start. I'm an immigrant. I was born in the Philippines, in Quezon City, Philippines, and I I've made it the same level as people who've gone to private schools on the East Coast. Like we're at the same stuff. We were at the same private schools. Like how does that happen? And how that happens is really getting clear on who you are yourself and understanding what your core values are. And so when I was in my 20s, I read a book, which is the most impactful book called The Energy of Money by Dr. Maria Nemeth. And later on, she came up with this other book called Mastering Life's Energies. That has to be done first. You need to really understand and get clear on what is holding you back. And for me, I just didn't even know. I wasn't even paying attention to money. My father, my uncle were all entrepreneurs. And my father would always say, like, oh, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of you. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, I have a male figure that's going to take care of me. And that's how I lived most of my life. My only goal in my 20s was basically to get married, like to get married to my college boyfriend. And when that didn't happen, it really made me think about, okay, where am I going to go? And one of the first exercises that Dr. Maria Nemeth puts in her book is to understand your standards of integrity. And there is a really simple exercise that she gives, which is basically take a look out into the world. Who are people that you admire? Who are people that you want, that whenever you think about them, it just makes your heart shine. It just makes your whole body glow. And then from there, you write down the qualities. And uh, then you realize that those qualities are you. And then if you think of, let's say, maybe my father who was resilient, my father who was tenacious, my mom who was kind, my grandmother who was a teacher, she loved to teach, she loved to share wisdom. When you realize that those qualities are in yourself, you start aligning with who you really are. And a lot of times people don't believe that those qualities are themselves because they're like, oh no, I love Oprah and I think that she's amazing. That's not me, but it is you, because in the exercise that she gives you, she didn't tell you who to pick, right? She didn't tell you, go choose Maya Angelou. She didn't say go and choose, I don't know, President Obama, whoever you admire. She didn't tell you to choose Nelson Mandela. That was all from you. And if it comes from you, that means you resonate in your heart. Your soul resonates with that. And in your other, beyond your thoughts, right? Beyond your thoughts that you're not good enough, imposter, what are all those thoughts that you think? That is who you really are. And then when you understand who you really are, and you realize, like, okay, if this is who I am, if this is someone who has integrity, if this is someone who is truthful, if this is someone who's vulnerable, you start realizing, oh my gosh, like, I'm not living my life like those values. And then once you start aligning those values and start cleaning up a little bit of your mess, and you don't even have to be done cleaning it up. You just have to just have that intention that, you know what, I'm gonna clean it up. Everything will change in your life. So for me, I certainly wasn't living my life with my values. I was looking at, like, my past. I was, I racked up all these parking tickets that my parents paid for when I was in New York. And I made them pay for it. And it wasn't even I made for them. It's like they said they're paid for it. I'm like, okay, you take care of me. And I realized that was one thing that I could clean up. And so I had gotten a job at the Getty Museum. I was getting paid $36,000 a year, 36,000, right? Living in Los Angeles. And I paid them back. And I would write checks, right? This is a long time ago. I would write them a check. They never asked for it. They never invoiced me, but it made me feel like one step towards living my values. Like, I'm not a jerk.
Showing up with integrity.
Yes, not only showing up, but actually doing something about it. Yes, but that's a step. Yeah, that's the first step, is really understanding your values and living that way.
Can you tell us what the book is again? I just want to make sure that everyone knows,
Sure,
because it was so impactful.
I can go get it. It's called The Energy of Money. Hold on.
Okay. But yeah, and I would love everyone in the comments, by the way, who do you resonate with? Who do you admire, and what do you admire about them? Because, I mean, we can all do this first step together, ultimately. The energy of money. Okay, awesome. I
Oh,
need to
also
get that.
too, yes, and she was also featured in Oprah. So she's doing her 25th anniversary next month. I mean, next year. And she actually has a workshop. If you go to acecoaching.com/intensive, she actually has this workshop that's starting. And I really wish that I took her workshop back in the day, because I understood this book intellectually, but you need to understand this book ontologically. You really need to be it. And so I became successful just by understanding, right, the concepts in this book mentally. But now that I took her workshop recently, earlier this year, it's going to make a huge difference for the rest of my life, because I did that. So I'd really highly recommend people to take a look at that.
I love that.
And
So
she has a
is that
sliding scale.
Oh, that's good to know. Definitely
Yeah.
good to know. So you start with the core of yourself. You start with your
Yes.
core values, what you're resonating with. I need to point out also that the people who are putting stuff out there that you're resonating with, they're most likely people with strong personal brands. So they are helping others by being out there, by being that beacon in the sky that people can pick up those signals from. So once you get a sense of those core values, a sense of what is resonating with you, how would you figure out how you can turn that into a business or a brand or something? What to
I
do with
I
that?
can't I can't reiterate how important it is. This first concept is, you have to be it before you can actually get it. So a lot of times the people who are struggling, let's say, it's because they haven't gotten that first step. But let's say you have that first step. Let's say you really have done that homework, figuring out what your values are. It, things will change. I will tell you, you will be a magnet for success, because we're all energy, right? So it'll shine. Okay. So, and things, right? Okay. So you want something practical. When you start seeing, right? When you start looking, you will start seeing. And then when you start seeing, you'll start telling the truth. And when you start telling the truth, that's when you can take authentic action. Okay. So follow those 4 steps: look, see, tell the truth, and take authentic action. And when you do those things, the actions that you will take include: you will be more disciplined, You will actually do those habits that you know that you should be doing. You will be doing things like drinking water, taking care, taking your supplements, taking care of yourself, because a lot of it is mental. A lot of the reasons why we don't do what we're doing is because we're holding ourselves back. Everyone knows you should be having a landing page, right? Everyone knows that you need to have a lead magnet. Everyone knows that, but they don't do it. All you have to do is Google, like, okay, what do I do? Everyone knows that short form video marketing is where it's at. They're not doing it, and they're not doing it consistently. So first of all, bravo to you, because you're showing up consistently, which is really, really the first step. And being able to do it with clarity, focus, ease, and grace is really the goal. Like in my career, in the very, very beginning, it was very driven. I was frantic. I just wanted to achieve, because what I didn't realize is I really didn't have the right intention to what I was doing. Like, I just wanted to just achieve, no matter what, no matter at what cost. And so I would check off the things a day, but you know what? I was making everyone around me miserable, because if I didn't make that goal, I would start blaming everyone else, or like, they're not good enough. Let me just do it. And then when you realize that I don't want to show up in this world this way, how do I want to show up in this world? I want to show up in this world with grace. I want to show up in this world with gratitude, right? How you are with people changes. And then when how you are with people changes, they're more willing to help you. There's less drama, and then when there's less drama, you have so much time. And then when you have so much time, you have the ability to get the ideas, and you have the ability to create. And then that really is the source of money, is when you can spend time and uniquely show up as you, just like how you're a beautiful brand. Like, you show up so beautifully with your laugh and with your personality, with the colors. Like, you become a magnet for the people that want to be with you, because again, it's focus. But there's so many times when I've mentored female entrepreneurs, and the ones that succeed are the ones that actually do what I tell them to do, which is, the first one is picking up this book. And what I did for this book was I put together a book club. And every Sunday we got together. And again, this was in the 90s, right? So this was like, I don't know, 96 or 97. And we would read this book and we would do the exercises. But what was interesting about me is that the person who I did this book club with, like, I mean, this is really crazy, but during the time we were doing this book club, she went to, I don't know, the Four Seasons in Santa Barbara. And you know what she did? She stole a whole bunch of stuff that was in her room. Candlesticks.
Yikes.
She stole bed sheets. She stole silverware.
Who does
and
that?
And she forgot her suitcase. Okay. And she's telling me the story. Like, and I'm like, I'm in this book club with you where we're talking about values, and you're doing the homework. And so anyway, just where I am today is completely different where she is today. And I'm not just going to it's just different, like, you could be reading this book, but not doing anything about it. And I don't know, there's steps. And then unless you follow these steps, life will be a struggle. That's all
Makes
I say.
sense.
And also another thing too is it has to be consistent, so like, for instance, one thing that they say, right, writing your abundance gratitude. How many times have they told you to write an abundance journal? So anyway, I have this abundance gratitude journal that I write in. And one thing that I do as well is, like, you have to generate this feeling of gratitude. When you generate this feeling of gratitude, and you can start actually writing like how much things are worth. So let's say, like, a hug from my daughter, $10,000, a hug from my husband, $100,000, whatever, you have to start, right? Then you start thinking like, oh my God, I am living such a rich and abundant life right now. You have to generate this abundance in your body first before you can attract it. And that's just really how life works. But yeah, I don't know if that's going to make sense. It's a big move,
Mhm.
but
It does make
that's what
sense.
I
And
do.
to your point, there are steps and it requires patience. But I know there are a lot of us, myself included. I've been a little too open recently about the fact that I have all these other types of abundance coming my way. I have love, I have respect, I have opportunities. Where's the money? So I know a lot of people are struggling with this. You have to get right in yourself. You have to not be skipping ahead towards the making money part. But what if you have kind of figured out your values, you figured out what you want to stand for, you figured out your purpose, you figured out who you want to help, you figured out how you want to help them, you've built a presence, you've built goodwill, you've shown up regularly. A lot of people are just kind of hanging, especially like live streamers, podcasters, bloggers. I hear this a lot from people. They're like, I've been showing up regularly. I've been living my truth and showing up regularly, and I have a community, but a community is not a business. Unless, of course, it's a monetized community, but that's a whole other leap. So, what tends to be sort of missing in there for people who are like, I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do and it's just not clicking? You've worked with a lot of people, you've seen this. So what tends to be among the things that tend to result in just kind of not making that connection between
Clarity.
business?
Clarity. They don't have key performance indicators. They don't know what success really is to them. They haven't defined it. So
Mm.
definition for me, so like for instance, like my goal, my BHAG, which is um, big, hairy, audacious goal, right, is
Love
$400
that.
million, right? Let's say $400 million. What is $400 million? It's about $1.25 million a day. What would it take for you as a brand to make $1 million a day? Okay, let's say your goal is $250,000. Work backwards, right? Take $250,000, divide it by 12, figure out how much do you have to be making daily. That's where you have to be dreaming, not like, well, I've already done this, I've done this, I've done it, like checking it off. When you have really figured that out, your mind will go to a different place, which is this creativity part that I talked about. This it will open up the possibility that, guess what? You can get anything you want, anything. We are thinking the same thoughts over and over and over again, which is, I've got that whatever $750 bill that I have to pay each month, right? So you're thinking about, I got to do that. That's not where your mind even wants to be. You are so much more capable. So what if I told you, okay, how do you get $10,000 today? Like we constantly book projects that are big, $2.5 million projects, $9.5 million, like we book big projects because why? Because I believe it's possible. They're 3-year, 5-year projects, but I believe it's possible. But practical ways, like if they already are showing up, that means they have an email newsletter, right? They have an email newsletter that goes out every single week with you're providing value, and then you have an offer, that you're consistently, sharing. I'll give you an example. When I started doing my email newsletters, probably 2 or 3 years ago, one of our old clients from like, I don't know, a decade ago saw it, didn't read it, obviously because he is busy. And he was just like, he texted me and he was just like, Kalika, and it was also an email, I think, that was going out to like my orange and bergamot clients, but he remembered what we did together. And that project is like, $250,000, like that's what I did, and constantly, this is the deal. Okay. everyone feels like they're really not showing up. They
Yeah.
think like, oh my God, I'm bothering them. It's not true. Like they're not even thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. And so people get really embarrassed. Like, oh my God, I'm sending that email too much. They don't even know you exist. They don't, at least 16 different touch points, right? So don't feel bad, because that's what happens is like women who are like showing up like, I feel bad. I don't want to
Yeah.
bother them.
Feel too
You're not
salesy.
bothering them. You're not. And then if you're showing up in an authentic way, you won't come across as salesy.
Exactly.
You won't be looking at someone else's, right? You won't be buying someone else's caption. You won't be buying someone else's copy, because guess what? You could start there. I would recommend that, right? You can start off with someone's and then write it yourself. Like you can follow their process. Like, okay, they sent out this email, then they sent out this thank you email. You can follow that, but you need to show up as yourself, your funny self, your vibrant self, your charismatic self. Or if you're quiet, your intellectual self, your brilliant self, your analytical self. You'll show up, and the people will, and everyone else who will unsubscribe, good. Just like welcome that. It's okay.
Yes.
And if
Don't be
someone writes
afraid of
that,
turning off the wrong people. They're clearing space.
yeah, but it's hard because when people write mean things, you're just like, so you have to have this ritual of just like, okay, because it's going to happen, right? Go for a walk. Like you have to have those rituals. Like I
Yeah.
have a calm the fuck down playlist, that I listen to, because I know that things like that will happen. But anyway, that's primarily, really be clear. Key
I think
performance indicators, important.
I think that's where a lot of us fall, which is it's like I feel like I am being clear. It's like, yeah, but you're being clear about five different things. That's not clear. It's tricky. So that is gold. That is super important and a great reminder. I have just a couple quick questions from
Sure.
participants from my Tuesday Twitter chat. So Debbie wants to know, what would be the one aspect of personal branding that you'd suggest to implement for someone just starting out?
You need to have something to sell. Like, yeah, you need something, $27, something, a planner, have a digital download. You got to have something to sell. Sell something. Most people don't sell something. I'm so
Yeah.
shocked. And then and then I always feel like, oh my God, like, first of all, everyone, all is well. You're doing a great job. Alexa, stop. That's my reminder for my Alexa, stop. Yeah. Um, yeah. You're you need something to sell.
I love that. And that's the part so many of us skip. It's like, oh, I have to have an audience before I sell. No, just do it together. Jennifer wants to know the words of wisdom you have regarding your business and personal growth. I feel like you've given us perfect words of wisdom, but if you have any more to add regarding your business and personal growth.
Everything is possible. Everything is doable. People think that like, oh no, you can. You can have the life that you want. You really, really can.
Love it. And then this last one's a quickie. What does your favorite outfit for speaking engagements look like? What makes you feel good?
Okay. So this one is like, really colorful. I think that people, whenever you're speaking, you need to wear clothes that are form fitting, because a lot of times people try to hide. So they'll wear things that are huge. They're too big for them. You need to show up and show like what you really look like, and not try to hide from people. Just show up who you are. Like right now, these are really huge sleeves, but it's okay.
Oops.
So like, wear skinny things
Love it.
so that people can
Oh
show
no.
you.
Why aren't
Sorry.
we in here? That's not good.
Maybe because it's off.
That's so funny. All right.
All right.
Well,
Thank
anyway,
you
thank you
so
so much,
much.
Kalika. This has been
Thank you.
amazing. And I'm about to, like, once the cameras are off, I'm about to go do some serious work on myself here because it really is, it's all possible and the limitations are all in me. So thank you for kind of helping so many of us, I'm sure, process through the ways in which we're limiting ourselves and how we can set that free and serve.
And one thing too, I just want to let you know that it's not like I did this work in my 20s or whatever, in the 90s. Like I do this every single day. I have an abundance meditation that I do every single day. Like it is a constant thing that you have to always remember, because your environment around you always makes you feel, bad about yourself. And you need to stay in that quality of, you know, abundance and extreme radical gratitude.
Now, for those who are into this sort of thing, which I know is not everybody, it's funny that we happen to do this show today because tonight there's a new moon. Very
Ah,
good time for setting intentions that are clear and specific that we can work towards. I get a little woo woo sometimes, but it is a good time
wow.
for
And
that.
I like you even more now. You know what I'm saying? Just show up, add some moves. Like,
Oh, yeah.
great. Did not know.
So, Kalika, tell us where people can and should find you.
Kalika.com. I have a website.
I love how simple you make it, and people can find all your stuff there. Beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Have an awesome day.
You too. And just to remind everybody, I do this show every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. It's also 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 5 p.m. British time. I know we have people from all over the world here. Thank you so much for being here. I also show up on Twitter on Tuesdays at 12 noon Eastern Time for my Twitter chat about brand, which is always the same topic as the Friday show. So next Tuesday, whoops, skipping ahead, next Tuesday, we're talking about branding with LinkedIn. LinkedIn can feel very kind of dry and clinical to some people. It used to be a place where you basically park your resume. It was very static. It is very far from that now. It is an incredible tool for building relationships, for building thought leadership, for getting yourself out there. And there's a lot that you can do. You can really get personal with LinkedIn, and you can really get branded with LinkedIn now more than ever. So we are going to be talking about that on Tuesday on Twitter for my chat. And then we're talking about it with an expert on this. There we go. Friday, 12 noon Eastern Time, Facebook and Twitter if it cooperates. It did not today. With Vivica von Rosen. She is a fantastic LinkedIn expert, and she certainly knows how to get her personal brand across on LinkedIn as well as everywhere. So we're going to be talking about that next week. Don't miss it. Thanks for being here. Bye.